Stop scrolling right now, seriously. Hit pause on whatever you were doing, because I need to talk to you about a life-changing secret, and it involves something you think you have infinite of: time. The time to wait, the time to recover, the time to fix things later. We all live with this invisible shield, especially when we're young, this belief that age is a distant, almost fictional concept, that the body we have today is a fortress, and tomorrow will just be a repeat of today. But before we get into the heart of this story, a story about a man who learned the hard way that his future self was begging for attention, I have a quick ask. You've stumbled upon a brand new channel, a place dedicated to sharing these quiet, life-altering truths. We're on a mission, and our first big goal is 100 subscribers. If you like what you hear, please smash that subscribe button and become one of our founding members. We're building a community, and you're invited. Also, this video is special. Let's aim for 50 likes. Can we hit 50 likes? If we can, I'll take that as a sign to keep digging into these powerful life secrets. Now let's get into the heart of it. The story of Alex, and the future he almost lost. Alex Sterling was 27, a walking stereotype of the Silicon Valley hustler. His uniform was an expensive t-shirt, his fuel was caffeine and ambition, and his belief system was simple. Sleep was for the retired, and his body was a machine designed only to execute the next line of code or close the next deal. He lived in a state of perpetual acceleration, convinced that the key to unlocking the universe's rewards was brute force effort, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. The idea that his health, his actual physical and mental machinery, required proactive maintenance was laughable. That was a problem for people who had already peaked, people who were old. The future, to Alex, felt like a clean, infinite canvas, and he was too busy sketching the outline of his empire to worry about the structural integrity of the easel it rested on. His wake-up call didn't arrive as a polite knocking on the door. It arrived as a blinding white flash, followed by the sound of his own head hitting a glass table. It happened during a high-stakes investor pitch. One moment, he was flawlessly detailing projected growth figures. The next, the room was spinning and a cold, heavy darkness was pulling him down. He woke up on the scratchy carpet, surrounded by concerned faces, the scent of expensive coffee and panic in the air. The diagnosis was simple yet terrifying in its implications: severe stress, nutritional collapse, and near-total adrenal exhaustion. His cardiologist, a man who looked exactly like the future Alex was carelessly racing toward, gave him a stern, unforgettable warning. "Your future self, Alex," the doctor said, folding his hands on his desk, "is currently suffering because of the choices you're making today. You're trying to cash checks your body hasn't even earned yet. Slow down, or you won't have a future to build that empire on." Humiliated and forced into a mandatory, if temporary, retreat from his startup, Alex found himself adrift in his minimalist high-tech apartment, a cage he had designed for himself. It was in this forced stillness that he met Ilara. She was his neighbor, a woman who moved with a grace that seemed impossible in the hurried city. Ilara was a holistic health coach and a yoga instructor, and her apartment directly across the hall seemed to emit a low, warm hum of peace that mocked Alex's internal chaos. Their first true conversation wasn't about work or success, it was about food. Alex, attempting to navigate his new doctor-mandated diet, had managed to burn a piece of toast to a carbon crisp, setting off the entire building's fire alarm. Ilara arrived at his door, not in annoyance, but with a gentle, amused smile. She wasn't beautiful in the angular, polished way Alex was used to. Her beauty was soft, radiant, and rooted in a deep, internal serenity. She didn't offer a lecture. She offered a solution, a basket of fresh, vibrant vegetables and a promise to show him that healthy food didn't have to taste like penance. That was the beginning of his true re-education. Ilara's philosophy wasn't about toxic positivity, that draining, fake insistence that one must always be fine and crushing it. Hers was a quiet, revolutionary form of gratitude. She taught him to find the immense, overwhelming goodness in the mundane. "Don't just gulp it down," she instructed one evening in his kitchen, the air filled with the aroma of roasted herbs, a scent so real it made his pre-packaged life feel plastic. Look at it. The purple of the eggplant, the green of the basil. This food existed so it could nourish you. Take a moment. He watched her, fascinated. She was preparing a simple dinner, yet she handled each ingredient with a reverence he usually reserved for his company's stock options. Her movements were slow, deliberate, and sensual. The way her fingers kneaded the bread dough, the soft, rhythmic compression of the ball beneath her palms, the way her head tilted when she tasted the sauce, it was a performance of mindful pleasure, and it was deeply captivating. "Gratitude isn't about ignoring problems, Alex," she whispered, leaning over to sprinkle sea salt onto the waiting vegetables. "It's about recognizing that, even with the problems, you have light. You woke up today. The sun rose. You have the luxury of several shirts in your closet, and your feet, your strong, healthy feet, will carry you wherever you need to go. Your fridge holds abundance. Thank the universe for the basics, and thank it for the obstacles too. They aren't roadblocks. They're high-intensity lessons that force you to mature." Their connection deepened quickly, moving from the shared space of the kitchen to the intimate space of shared physical activity. Alex, stiff from years of chair hunching, found himself reluctantly joining her for morning stretches. It was in these quiet moments that the romantic tension began to simmer. One morning, after a challenging session, she helped him ease into a deep hip stretch. She knelt behind him, her hands gentle but firm on his lower back, guiding his breath. The warmth of her touch, the scent of lavender and something uniquely hers, sunshine and earth, made his mind quiet for the first time in years. It was a physical connection rooted in care, in the mutual understanding that the body was something to be respected. He felt an intense, focused awareness of her nearness, the light press of her thighs against his back, her voice low and instructional, yet laced with a growing, palpable affection. That evening they were on the couch, watching a terrible old movie, a mutual, comfortable silence settling between them. He reached out and simply placed his hand on hers, which rested lightly on her knee. Her skin was warm, smooth, responsive. She turned her hand over, intertwining their fingers, and looked into his eyes. In that look, he saw not a demand, but an invitation, a deep, reciprocal acceptance of his flaws, his ambition, and his nascent transformation. "The greatest joy is in the conscious feeling," Ilara murmured later, after the movie had dissolved into a soft, intimate blur. They were now closer, wrapped in a blanket, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. Her hand traced the line of his jaw, down to his neck, a touch that was slow, deliberate, and exquisitely tender. "You spent so long trying to rush through life, Alex, that you missed the exquisite sensory details." He leaned into her touch, realizing the profound difference between the frantic, fleeting pleasures of his old life and the slow, sustained warmth she generated. This intimacy was a kind of meditation, a focused dwelling on the present moment. The way her lips sought his, soft at first, then demanding a deeper, more committed attention, was a revelation. It wasn't about speed. It was about texture, breath, and the heavy, intoxicating beat of two hearts synchronizing in the quiet of the night. Her hands slid beneath his shirt, cool at first, then warming as they mapped the hard-earned tension of his back, exploring the muscles that had forgotten how to relax. He responded by burying his face in the curve of her neck, inhaling her clean, natural scent, realizing that the act of simply being close, of caring for and appreciating the physical vessel, was the ultimate form of self-love and partnership. Every touch was a silent thank you to the body, a declaration that it was worthy of attention and exquisite pleasure. They moved together, not in a desperate sprint, but in a slow, sensual exploration, a deep, mindful embrace that celebrated the strength and vitality they were building together. The room was dark, but the air around them glowed with the quiet intensity of two souls finding anchor in each other's physical reality, a silent, profound vow to honor the present moment and the bodies that brought them there. This was the one place where Alex finally stopped running and just felt. Over the next few months, Alex rebuilt his life, guided by Ilara's gentle strength. He didn't abandon his startup, but he changed his relationship with it. He implemented non-negotiable rules, 8 hours of sleep, daily movement, and 3 home-cooked, nutrient-dense meals. He found that the clarity brought by proper care made him a sharper, more efficient entrepreneur. The time he took for himself wasn't lost. It was compounded, turning into better focus and better decisions. He learned to look at the world through Ilara's lens of gratitude. When a major deal fell through, instead of descending into a spiral of self-recrimination, he took a deep breath. "Thank you, universe," he thought, "for showing me a flaw in the business model that I would have ignored later. I mature with this." When he looked at his hand, instead of seeing a tool for typing emails, he saw the miracle of tendons and bone that allowed him to hold Ilara's hand, to feel the warmth of the coffee mug, to pull himself out of bed. The climax arrived not in a boardroom, but on a quiet hike they took on his 28th birthday. They reached a summit overlooking the city where his business stood, the place he used to rush to every day. He wasn't tired, he was energized. He pulled Ilara into his arms, feeling the satisfying solid strength of his own legs beneath him, the clear, cool air filling his lungs. "I realized something today," he told her, kissing her deeply, his voice thick with emotion. "I used to think my future self was just the end result of my success. Now I know he's an extension of my present self, and I have a responsibility to him. You taught me that caring for today is the ultimate investment in tomorrow." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, simple ring, not a diamond the size of a debt, but a band engraved with the coordinates of this very spot, the place where he finally stopped. He dropped to one knee. "Ilara," he said, his eyes filled with the non-toxic, genuine positivity that comes from deep, profound happiness. "Thank you for showing me how to be grateful for the sunrise, for the food in the fridge, and for the problems that taught me my greatest lesson, that the best possible future requires loving the person I am right now. Will you promise to keep teaching me and build that healthy, grateful future with me?" She didn't need words. Her smile, radiant as the morning sun, was all the answer he needed. As they stood there embracing the vastness of the future, Alex knew his empire was secondary. The real success was standing right there beside him. In the body he was finally learning to honor. In the heart he was finally learning to trust. The journey to 100 subscribers and 50 likes might be the start of this channel, but the journey to 100 years of health, gratitude, and love was the real prize. And it all started with one simple, radical choice: to care. Don't wait until your body sends you a final, screaming notice. Take 5 minutes right now to walk, to stretch, to truly taste your next bite of food, or just to whisper a quiet thank you to the universe for the gift of this day. Your future self is depending on you. Don't let them down.